Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I made a video a few days ago, week ago, whenever it was. I make so many I lose track. And it was about the Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia rematch, the proposed Devin Haney Ryan Garcia rematch, which had been mentioned, but there were sticking points on the fact that Haney has a lawsuit out against Garcia, and VADA testing, the subject of that came into it because obviously Garcia failed his test last time out. Well, Garcia, I think in May, will have served his year ban for what that's worth. Piss in the ocean, isn't it? And Turkey al-Sheikh doesn't seem bothered that Garcia failed tests, and he's talking about putting them together. But before that, in May of this year, we are going to get both fighters on the same card. Supposedly, this is what's being mooted. Now, I think there'll probably be some sort of interim belt on the line for Garcia. Haney, of course, remains undefeated. Yeah, right. Because there was a no contest to fight with Garcia because of the failed test. So he's still 31 wins, no draws, no defeats. Whereas Garcia has that one defeat to Tank Davis, body punch KO, when he was just totally drained at the weight, and it was a lightweight, wasn't it? And of course, he failed to make the weight in the fight with Haney at 140 by 3.5 pounds, and he had to forfeit $1 million per pound. So that was probably about $3.5 million. But when you got as much money as he does, who cares? I mean, the kid is minted. But the opponents are curious. And if I was Devin Haney, I wouldn't be too bloody happy, to be honest with you. Because Devin Haney has been, he's been matched with Jose Ramirez. Ramirez is a former champion, held, oh Christ, let me get this right now. What did he hold? WBC and WBO titles, and then he fought Josh Taylor for all the marbles and lost a unanimous decision, got floored twice in, I think, the 6th and the 7th. I think that's right anyway, belt-wise. But then that was in 2021, and he's 32 now, and his career has stagnated a little bit. Because in 2022, he only had one fight. That was against Jose Pedraza, and he won a 12-round unanimous decision. Again, this is all at 140. Then he fought Richard Comey, knocked him out in the 11th round. That was a pretty good performance, but that was in 2023. So he only had one fight in 22 and one fight in 23. Then in 24, he beat Rances Bartolome widely, a 12-round decision. But then at the back end of the year, I think November time, he lost to undefeated Arnold Barboza Jr., who at the time was 30 wins, no draws, no defeats. And it was competitive, but Barboza Jr. won that fight. And Ramirez, to be honest, looked a little bit jaded. There was something lacking in that performance by him. And Barboza Jr., good fighter, but I thought Ramirez might give him more problems. He was okay in patches, but he didn't seem to want it enough. Do you know what I mean? When you watch a fight, you think, why isn't this guy working harder? And so he's got a second chance, basically, to sort of steady his ship of a career by fighting Haney. And if he does return to, decent form, I mean, the stoppage over Comey in back in 23 was quite impressive. Comey's a tough guy to stop. Bartolome win was wide. Bartolome had a good looking record, but is probably past his best. I think he's in his late 30s now, Bartolome, 38, 39. So if Ramirez regains his form, and at 32 he's not too old to do that, Haney, coming off that absolute horrendous shellacking from Garcia and having been out of the ring for a while, he might have his work cut out. He might well have his work cut out. Now, if you contrast this with Ryan Garcia, who originally was supposed to fight Pitbull, Isaac Cruz, but But oh no, Cruz, for whatever reason, walked off into the sunset. And who's he been replaced by? None other than our old friend Rolly Romero. The good old Rolly. Now, Rolly was, gifted a belt. I mean, first of all, he got knocked out by Tank at lightweight. Then he got gifted a belt with a very, very controversial stoppage over Barroso, who looks like he's about 80. I'm exaggerating. He doesn't look a day over 70. And then he lost it to Cruz. He lost it to Isaac Cruz. So Rolly's coming up in weight to 140. And he's not, technically, he's an unconventional fighter, Rolly. I don't think he's quite as bad as people make out, but he's certainly not that great. I would hesitate to call him world class. He's certainly had tested at 140. So this, you would think that Garcia would be able to deal with Rolly either by stoppage or on wide points decision relatively easily. But with Garcia, you just never know, because Ryan Garcia, if ever the phrase loose cannon suited a fighter, it is Mr. Ryan Garcia. Do I need to go through it all? Of course I don't. You've heard all the horror stories. Talks about smoking weed, drinking, being having ADHD, which I can well believe the way he behaves, talking all sorts of bollocks at press conferences. He essentially quit against Tank, and then surprised everyone. He surprised me. I've got to be honest. No way on earth did I think that he'd completely dominate and floor Haney the way he did. But then if he was on something and he came in 3 pounds overweight, then I suppose that might have been on the cards. But he's a case. He's a head case, any old Ryan, bless him. But I don't know. Against Rolly, I would have thought he'd be able to handle Rolly. And then, of course, once these two fighters have supposedly, we hope, or they hope, Turkey hopes, have won these fights, he will match them again later in the year, probably October, November. So this fight is taking shape. I don't know what's happened about the case, the legal case against Garcia, because Haney and his father, Bill Haney, were very eager to take this forward. They were suing De La Hoya and Golden Boy and Garcia for, assault and battery, because essentially Garcia, they're saying, went in there with greatly unfair advantage, an illegal advantage, actually. And they're suing them for money as well, like earnings lost and so on. But maybe that's been put on hold. I don't know. It'll all come out in the wash. But I would imagine that if this fight has been finalised or is to be finalised, that would be a stipulation of it, that Haney would have to drop the case against Garcia, and they're going to make a lot of money. Turkey's going to put up some serious money, and also the show in May. That's going to be under the banner of the Ring magazine, which Turkey has bought and is re-releasing and revamping, rebooting, as they say nowadays. So yeah, it's. I got to be honest, the Haney versus Garcia rematch. I do find it intriguing. I've got to be honest, but I want to see a really stringent testing for both of them, and. So I don't want any excuses next time round, or and we don't want another no contest, and I want to see both men make weight. So whatever the weight stipulation is, I don't want to see any rehydration clause. I'm sick of hearing that phrase. I want to see a good, clean, honest, even fight, and then we will see whether the first fight was down to illegal substances, the way it went, or whether Garcia really does have Haney's number, because I think he beat him in the amateurs, didn't he? A couple of times. But if only Garcia could get himself together mentally, he'd be a threat. He's got a lot of talent, that kid. And he's an exciting fighter to watch as well. Haney, I've always thought he looked a little bit brittle around the chin. I mean, in the opening seconds of that Garcia fight, the first one, obviously they've only fought one so far, but the opening seconds of that first round, Haney was shaken by a big left hook by Garcia, and he could not get out of the way of the left hook. But, you know, all this stuff adds to it, adds to the sort of pot. I'm thinking it's a really good, be a really, really intriguing rematch, you know. And just as an aside, this May card, there's another fight on there that I think is very, very, very intriguing, and that's Martin Bakole against Efe Ajagba. That's an elimination bout for the IBF heavyweight title, which Dubois holds. I mean, a lot of people are high on Bakole, but I would not rule out Ajagba. I would not rule him out. He is a big lump and he hits hard. And Bakole can be hit as much as Bakole has that sort of juggernaut, freight train, Sonny Liston-like look about him. Ajagba, don't rule out Ajagba. And then, of course, the winner would be the mandatory for... well, it's not. Is it a final elimination? I don't know whether it is. I think it is a final elimination, but either Ajagba or Bakole against the winner of Parker and Dubois. That'll be a good fight. Very good fight. All right. Well, let me know what you think. Comments below, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit the like button because they count them and all that. I always say this, don't I? But yeah, thanks for your time. Looking forward to reading your comments, and bye for now.